additional cost applied last year to the barges. My recollection was the year before, I think it was 50, but we didn't take anything off. And I'm wondering, therefore, in light of what you've said, if let's say to take the 10% this year and the inflationary, and then to meet with the barges and consider the way forward if members aren't happy with the full 3 years. I don't think we actually did make any charges last year, but that's what I seek clarification on, Chairman.
Mr. Leslie.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, in the supplementary estimate pack, it's got the fees and charges that have been detailed for the past 3 years. So it shows 21, 22, and then 22, 23, and no change between those two. So that's in the.
All right. Well, you have the motion on the table at the moment, Councillor Lagan. So I think you have the right to the last say. But Councillor Siddle.
Thank you, Chair. One thing that I would like to check upon is what sort of discussions officers are having with the barge owners, and whether we're in discussion with them, whether they've got a view on these things, whether they're prepared to pay a bit more in terms of things. My other concern about what we reported on is the quay is a Malden District Council asset. And no matter what, we've got to maintain that. So bringing in that cost figure, I think, is something which isn't really necessary. It would be something we'd have to pay anyway, whether the barges are there or not. But could you give us some clarification about what discussions have happened between us and the barge owners?
Mr. Leslie.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. So discussions do take place with the barge owners, and certainly part of the levelling up bid as well. That's happened. In terms of this specific increase, they've not been engaged in any detail around the specific increase to remove the discounts. My understanding, not from direct conversation, I have to emphasise, is that the barge owners understand that there's a need for an appropriate charge, but of course we haven't had that detailed level of engagement on this specific proposal around that.
Thank you. Now the penultimate speaker on this will be Councillor Thompson and then Councillor Lagan to wind up.
Thank you, Chairman. Actually, Councillor Siddle mentioned that we'd have to pay the cost anyway, but my understanding would be that the silt moves around because the barges move around, and if nobody used it, a lot of that wouldn't happen. But what I actually asked to speak about was Councillor Lagan saying, well, it's not a discount, but I have to disagree, because this discount only applies to the full rigged barges. If you have a barge that isn't full rigged, you pay the full amount. If you have a different kind of vessel of a similar size, you pay the full amount. So I don't see any way of looking at it other than it is a discount. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Lagan, if you sum up before I put the question.
Certainly, Chair. Just to raise a quick point of clarification for Councillor Thompson, the quay is silted up. The barges at neat tides, low tide, where there's not a lot of water, they can only work for 90 minutes. Right? So because of the siltation in the river, it's silted up. We haven't as a council invested enough in the removal of the siltation that's there. Okay, so we had negotiated with the water companies as well. They have a window of opportunity of 2 hours. Okay, so when you're talking about money and value for money, a 2-hour trip on the tide before they have to let go, before they have to come up, we're not looking after the river in the way that we need to do. I think it's pretty clear that, and Mr. Leslie said, this is a policy, but there was an awful lot of details applied in here. So for the first time ever in my time as a member, so I want to question why, because it leads a leading debate. But I stand by what I've said. I think that the barge owners, they do want to pay. They understand they have to pay, and they should pay. They should pay a fair and equitable sum of money, in the respect that what they bring to the town and the district in revenue and income, car parking charges, restaurant fees, people spending money, people having holidays with us, Chair. We've even got it on our crest, except the barges are everywhere. So we're really not measuring eggs with eggs. I understand what you're talking about with the kiosk owners, but there's an increase that's already set in those contracts anyhow. So I commend this to the council. I said we should support this. It brings clarity. There's a cost of living crisis currently. We're allowing people to be able to be clear in what they need to do, set their business plans, and we can keep these things in Malden, because we are at risk of losing others because the kitty went last year because of the cost. Thank you, Mayor.
We now have sound members, so if you speak, you can use your microphones. Right. So the recommendation is for the fees and charging policies attached as Appendix A, with the exceptions of the car parking and wharfage. Now, I'm assuming, I did say penultimate and final speaker. You could...
Recorded vote, please, Chairman. That's what I'm going to ask for.
Oh, right, okay. Is that seconded? Right, okay. So if I take that vote first for the all other fees and charges and the car parking charges, right, and then we'll come to the vote on that. Is that acceptable to members? Right. Those in favour of the recommendation of Appendix A plus the car parking charge additional document, please show. Not the barges. Just this is all the other fees and charges, but not the barges. That looks like a positive vote of approval. Right, a recorded vote, Ms. Casey, on the wharfage votes.
Yes, Chairman. I wonder, for the benefit of the public, given we had no sound when Councillor Laggan first mooted his proposal, if he could just repeat that, and then we could have the seconder again repeat that for the benefit of the viewing public, and then we take a vote. Would that be okay with members?
Okay, Councillor Laggan, would you repeat your proposal, please?
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, IT. My proposal is that we keep the current rate of fees and charges, and in line with what Councillor Fluke has said, is that we apply an inflationary rate for this year, and then for the next 3 years we apply an inflationary rate of increase to that, compounded obviously year on year, and then it comes back to the council for a full review after that. Thank you.
That gives me a problem, Mr. Quelch or Mr. Leslie. Can we say what's going to happen in 3 years' time?
Well, technically you can, but whether that's the right thing to do is another matter. But technically you can. The council can always undo. The council can always undo that.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we'll leave it like that for the time being then. So, if you agree...
Chairman, I have to second it.
Yeah, oh, sorry, Councillor Stamp. It has been duly seconded by Councillor Stamp. All those...
Can we have the wording? Yeah. Can we just have the clear word? Oh, sorry.
We've just had the wording from Councillor Laggan.
Okay, well, I just thought...
Did you get his wording, Miss Casey?
Yes, I did. Thank you very much, Chairman. But I'd just like to know now who's going to second the recorded vote.
It was seconded.
Councillor Bell.
Councillor Bell. Lovely. Thank you very much, members. Are we ready, members? I will call your names in alphabetical order. We're voting on Councillor Laggan's proposal on the fees and charges for the barges.
On the basis of for or against?
I will call your names in alphabetical order. Please state clearly for, against, or abstain.
Yeah. Okay.
Starting with Councillor Bassinger.
For. Did you get that? Miss Casey?
Yes, sorry, we're just having a little bit of a technical for. Councillor Miss Beale.
For.
Thank you. Councillor Bell.
For.
Councillor Boyce.
Abstain.
Councillor Channer.
Sensing the mood of the chamber, Madam Chairman, for.
Councillor Edwards.
4.
Councillor Luca,
4.
Councillor Helm,
4.
thank you. Councillor Hubner,
4.
Councillor Hall,
4.
thank you. Councillor Keys,
4.
Councillor Lagan,
4, please, Bernard.
Councillor Mays,
4.
Councillor Morgan,
4.
Councillor Nunn,
Abstain.
Councillor Shaughnessy,
4.
thank you. Councillor Siddle,
4.
Councillor Skeens,
Not here.
thank you. Councillor Spenceley,
4.
Councillor Stamp,
4, please, Berner.
thank you. Councillor Stephen,
Not here.
Councillor Stilts,
4.
Councillor Swain,
4.
Councillor Thompson,
4.
thank you, members. So that's 20 for the proposal and 2 abstentions. No, none against.
Thank you. That's therefore carried, and that deals with agenda item 8A, little a. I now intend to bring forward agenda item 12, council tax base 23-24, contained on pages 41 to 48, to be the next item. Leader.
Well, thank you, Chairman. This is something that we're required to set the tax base for the council tax by the 31st of January 2022. The report highlights who we have to notify its tax base calculations to, and it's all done in bearing in mind the Local Government Act 1922 as amended and detailed in the report set out. It makes requirements allowing each authority to make its arrangements for adopting the council tax base. The council tax varies between the different bands, and it is really a technical exercise, Chairman, so I won't go into all the details. It all should be clearly laid out for members. It's an integral part of setting the council tax, and is actually a prerequisite for setting council tax for the following year. There's Appendix A there, Chairman, and Appendix B as well, which is regarding the parishes. I don't know if Mr. Leslie would like to come in, Chairman, but I would say that we agree the report and the recommendation on it.
Is that seconded? Right, that's seconded. Mr. Leslie, do you want to make any observations?
Just very briefly, that's all right, Chairman. This is the council tax base, not the council tax set in itself. It really is an estimate of actually the number of properties, essentially, that will pay the council tax. It is based on what's in the system, really. So that's the actuals, which are there currently, and really the only estimates are around growth that may happen, and also at our collection rate as well. The growth is based on planning estimates and fairly consistent with past years as well. And the collection rate takes into account that actually that there may be a bit of a downturn going into next year, so we're conservative among that. However, it's just an estimate, and obviously what we actually collect will be the actuals, and for us that is the amount that we will receive eventually anyway. So this is an estimate. Thank you.
Okay, is that agreed, members? Yes. Agreed. Thank you. We'll now return to agenda item 8, B, 8B, which is the street name and the numbering policy. Leader. Oh, no, sorry.
It's recommendation, Chairman, from Mrs.
Yeah,
Thompson.
sorry, it's Councillor Thompson.
Thank you, Chairman. Would you like me to read it all out? I'll try not to.
No, I think
Okay.
members would know.
Thank you. Yes, if Chairman's taking this as read, this recommendation is simply the four little items as laid out in the report. Thank you.
Any member wish to speak? Is that agreed?
Agreed, Chairman.
Thank you. We now go on to agenda item 8B, Performance, Governance and Audit. Agenda item 15, Council Constitution and Scheme of Delegation, General Powers Update. Councillor Stamp.
Thank you, Chairman. Can you guide me? Because every time I stand up to do something to be noted, I do it wrong. So do you want me to just read it out? And then...
You just present your report, please.
Okay.
You don't need to read it out, but
Okay.
you can if you wish.
No. Chairman, I rise to present the Performance Governance and Audit Committee report for the 29th of September 2022. Agenda item 15, Council Constitution and Scheme of Delegation General Powers Update. I will read the recommendation. It is recommended that the proposed addition be made to Part 3.3- whatever that is, Responsibility for Functions, Scheme of Delegation, General Provisions, as detailed below. Members can see the detail. I just so propose, Chairman. Is that right? Yeah.
Agreed. Thank you. Agenda item 9, to note the minutes of various meetings of the Council. Is there any questions under Rule 6.2? No? Noted?
Thank you, Chairman.
Agenda item 10, notice of motions. Councillor Fluker, do you wish to read out your motions, or what do you wish to do, Councillor Fluker?
Well, thank you, Chairman. I've had conversations with committee services and the monitoring officer about this, Chairman, and I think that we should follow the rule, and we should, propose that we refer this to the relevant committee. We've attempted to do this on a couple of times, and it's not quite been done properly, and the committees involved have quite rightly discounted it. So I propose, Chairman, that it is, I guess it goes to the Overview and Scrutiny Committee, Chairman.
I would so rule. Is that seconded? Thank you. Therefore, that's referred to Overview and Scrutiny. Your B motion 2, Councillor Fluker.
Thank you, Chairman. Look, I'm trying to do this in the spirit of things, and I think it's absolutely important, bearing in mind that many of the non-statutory items that we deal with fiscally come through the corporate plan. And whilst I understand officers' concern that there may well be a change of administration and indeed a feeling about this council in May, I still think it's absolutely important, Chairman, that we don't leave them without a funded corporate plan. They can, if we agree the budget and the corporate plan, if they want to change it, they can. But I don't think we'd be able to. I don't think it'd be right to leave them a legacy of not having a corporate plan. Chairman, I'm sure officers have thought of this, and I think it came through, and correct me if I'm wrong, a performance governance and audit working group, this was said, and I was quite surprised because this would not normally be the procedure to follow. So, Chairman, I think in the spirit of the motion, I'm more than happy to have it referred to that committee for consideration, and perhaps I'll meet with the 151 officer to discuss what the impact of not doing this would be. Thank you.
Right, therefore that's referred to Strategy and Resources. Thank you, Councillor. Sorry, yes. Thank you, Councillor Hill. Agenda item 11, questions in accordance with Procedure Rule 6.3, which notice has been given. There is none. We have done agenda item 12. Agenda item 13, Chelmsford City Council Local Plan Review, Issues, Options and Consultation Response, pages 49 to 56. Leader.
Sorry, Chairman, just take my mask off for this. I don't know, I can't read my screen, so I've taken some notes. Yes, Chairman, this is really a member wanting to, or rather the council needing to hopefully ratify a holding response. This was submitted to Chelmsford City Council, Chairman, and there should be the appendix with the report. We were invited back in August to comment as a statutory consultee regarding Chelmsford local plan review, issues and options consultation. And there's been various meetings. I was invited to a duty cooperate meeting with the chairman of strategy and resources and some officers. And since that time, officers have been concentrating on the border issues and strategic matters. Their current local plan was adopted relatively recently in May 2020, but they're now obviously going through the review process and wanting to update that plan and the plan period up till 2041. I won't go on, Chairman, really. We're seeking ratification of this, but I'm sure an officer would like to come in and explain. We didn't answer all the questions. What officers did was they looked at the pertinent questions regarding our authority. Again, members met and went through that, and that's the response here tonight. And I believe it's been off by Councillor White. So, and I believe they've got it, but this we're seeking ratification of, and I'm sure the relevant officer would like to come in and explain it in more detail than I can. Thank you. But I propose that recommendation, Chairman.
Is that seconded?
Yeah.
Okay, Ms Shortland?
Well, actually, Councillor Chan has done an amazing job of introducing the
Well, she usually does.
I don't know if I've really got anything else to add, actually. We focused mainly on emphasising the duty to cooperate issues and the importance of strategic cross-boundary issues in the response. So there are things like education, road capacity, things that cross our borders. There's not enough information at this time for us to make any comment to support or oppose any particular spatial approach in the consultation. So we're asking for the holding response that we've submitted to Chelmsford City Council. Can that document be approved?
Thank you. Members? Councillor Stamp?
Thank you, Chairman. Could I actually just say that, because obviously many of us haven't been party to the conversations that has gone on with Chelmsford City Council officers, could I actually ask that we robustly do challenge and don't roll over for any more development that is going to most probably come to Southwood and Ferrers? I'm sure the people who live at that side of the district is absolutely fine, but the rest of us who live this side of the district has noticed a huge amount of traffic, increase in traffic. And I know that when the last local plan, I think Councillor Fluker, if he chooses, may be able to help me out on this one, when they're due to cooperate, they didn't want to cooperate with us. I think that was right, Councillor Channer, as well, when it was the last LDP.
I can confirm that.
Yeah, so I would actually ask, because I do actually read, if you notice on 3.6 members and officers, it says to ensure opportunities are capitalised on the impacts and adequately mitigated where they cannot be avoided. Now, I know that's speak in planning terms, but in actually layman's terms for people who actually live there, I would hope that we can robustly challenge the development, because I think one of the areas in our own LDP that was going to be considered for a development site was actually next to one of their sites, and my understanding is that they robustly wanted us not to actually put that forward. So I actually would hope, and I'm sure that the officers will say they will do this, but I'd like it noted that I have stood up, Chairman, and I do want it robustly challenged that we are not going to be put upon that roundabout at Southwood and Ferrers. You've always got a poor old car going up a lorry's backside because nobody can seem to navigate it properly, and it has a massive impact to everybody who lives in Burnham, the Dengie, Latchington, etc., Chairman. So I'd like that noted. Thank you.
I'm sure that will be, and I agree with every word you've said, and I'm impartial. Any other member? Right. Agreed that with the advisory from Councillor Stamp.
Yeah.
Agreed. All right. Agreed. Agreed. Agenda item 14, delegation of power to give dispensation to Code of Conduct interests, and we all know what this is all about on 57 to 58. I'll go to the leader, but I'm sure this is a Mr. Quelch issue. Leader.
Thank you very much, Chairman. This is Mr. Quelch, our monitoring officer, really, I think, trying to make the system more efficient and effective here. Because if someone comes to the monitoring officer to wanting to make dispensation, there's not always time to go to and set up a joint standards committee, which is the body at the moment which agrees to that. So what's being sought here, and I'm doing it from memory, I hope I'm right, I think Mr. Quelch is seeking that it be given to him and within consultation with the independent person. And I think that's the nub of it, but please, Mr. Quelch, come in. But I would propose the recommendation, Chairman, as on the order paper.
And that's seconded?
Yeah.
Okay, Mr. Quelch, do you wish to say anything?
No, Chairman, I think again the leader has done a wonderful job in summarising.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Lagan.
Chair, I completely agree with it. It makes perfect sense. But can you give us an example of what would need, super speedy ratification or just dispensation, please? Mr. Quelch, sorry.
Yes,
Yes. In fact, this report came about because a member in one of the area planning committees, there were some members that felt that they had an interest, a number of members in an area planning committee, in relation to a development, and there would have been huge. That would have in fact meant that the business couldn't have been transacted because there were so many members in the area planning committee that could have been affected and had an interest under the new code of conduct. So that prompted me to write this report. So there's a very good example, and I think particularly because the new code of conduct is more rigorous, and if you have an other registrable interest, now you need to actually, and it's direct, you need to actually leave the debating chamber, whereas under the old code it was less rigorous. So I think there's going to be many more times where lots of members have the same interest, and so business might not be transacted.
Councillor Fluker.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. I mean, look, this came about as a result of a planning application that went to South East Area Planning Committee, and every member had an interest by virtue of the fact the property was owned by this council. And at that particular stage, we had absolutely nothing in place to allow us to conduct that business. And it was only because that meeting was cancelled that we've actually picked up on this. But you know, I still do have problems about dispensations, particularly so where you've got dual-hatted members who sit on both this district council and parish councils, and I fear that I'm going to engage with the monitoring officer over this in relation to an item that's being considered at the South East Area Planning Committee on Wednesday, because I don't think that the code of conduct is there to disenfranchise members who are dual-hatted. I don't see that, and I think that, bearing in mind there is no beneficial gain for members serving on councils, I think that some of this needs to be thought through, and I'm not sure if the Local Government Association's interpretation of this is wholly correct, but I do look forward to my exchanges with the monitoring officer over the next few days, at least up until 7:30 p.m. on Wednesday. Thank you.
Councillor Thompson.
Thank you, Chair. It's just a question for clarity, please, through you for Mr. Quelch. I mean, this isn't about dispensations on individual matters. This is, in fact, so whichever committee is sitting, it is, in fact, quorum. We're talking about when numbers of members wouldn't be able to vote without this. Not for one person with one issue.
Yeah, yes, Councillor Fluker, please.
Yeah, sorry, I'm sorry, I saw this completely differently, because my understanding was, based on the preamble when this report was presented, was that the whole idea of this was not to bog the Joint Standards Committee down by people asking for dispensation. So it could be an individual dispensation, or it could be a whole dispensation. I mean, did I misunderstand the preamble, or does this only apply to where everybody is requiring a dispensation?
Mr. Quelch.
Dispensations can be applied for by individual members where there is only one member, as well as where there are many members, like the very good example that Councillor Fluker gave. And so there is no restriction. Normally, a dispensation would only be given where business couldn't be transacted. That's a very good reason for giving dispensation. There's less reason for giving dispensations in the ordinary course of events where there is one individual that has a problem. Otherwise, you could be giving dispensations all the time and the code of conduct would never work, and members would never have to leave the debating chamber as is intended by the code of conduct.
Thank you. Members agree this?
Agree.
Thank you. Then we've got 10 minutes before I intend to adjourn or close the meeting. Leaders' questions. Questions to the leader. Councillor Fluker.
Chairman, I've got three questions. The first one, Chairman, is sorry, beg your pardon. Leader, since May 22, can you give three examples of where, in your capacity as leader, you have brought forward policies to the council on behalf of the Conservative administration?
Leader?
Oh, sorry, I've got my glasses on. Chairman, what I would refer to actually is my leader's statement made in June, where I set out the programme for this municipal year. And indeed, that document doesn't say what the intentions are for this authority. And there will be things coming forward, as you'll be aware, Councillor Fluker, because your question, and I would refer you to that statement, what our intentions are. We have started the review of the corporate plan, which will expire in 2023. There'll be an event strategy, should be coming forward, and also the other elements of the leader's speech in there. And that is what I would say I have done in the leader's speech, which will be coming to fruition and finishing at the end of 2023. Thank you, Councillor.
Councillor Mays.
We had 3 questions.
No, everybody's got to have a share. Councillor Mays.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, Leader. The cemetery team in this council does an awesome job. It has come to my attention that they also bring in a significant level of income. However, there is no budgets allocated to the statutory work that they have to do. Will this important function of the council be properly funded and the department given a suitable budget going forward? Thank you.
Leader.
Well, there's certainly fees and charges relating to cemeteries. And I'm sorry, I thought we had an officer here that was involved in the cemeteries. I've certainly engaged with them, and certainly. Oh, sorry, are you interrupting? Okay, I'll sit down. Okay, thank you.
No, I was just going to come back, Madam Leader, and just say...
No, you can't come back. You asked a question.
And say there is not a budget. Okay, what about...
Well,
Leader, if you're unsure about...
No, what I was going to say, what I will be doing is I will be actually checking this out, and I will give you a full response in writing, because I will look into all that.
Councillor Fluker.
And I will explain about the cemetery service.
I don't know how much time we got. I'll be brief because I know that Councillor Stamp is keen to get in. Chairman, I've just listened and made a few notes about what the leader just said. And yeah, of course I know all about the leader's speech, but there was absolutely no mention about budget. Chairman, the budget deficit this year is now reported to be £750,000. That's the equivalent of using £15,000 a week of taxpayers' money. Right? The leader's has just confirmed she hasn't got any policies with regards to the budget. We've given her the opportunity, and she's referred back to her statement. So I can't help saying this, Leader, but under your leadership, this council is underperforming. And when warned about the impending financial disaster, you refused to support the calling of an autumn budget. We can't continue like this. The council's budget has imploded on your watch, and there are no policies to stem the flow of money out of this council. Will you now act in the best interests of our residents and stand down to allow somebody more financially astute to lead the council out of this financial predicament? And if not, Leader, why not?
Leader.
Thank you, Chairman. I will answer that. The budget, actually, Councillor Fluker, was in the previous municipal year. I delivered the budget in February, and the statement I was referring to was from the subsequent municipal year from May onwards. So, and I did make a budget speech, and it also was to cover, obviously, this municipal year. You're talking about the budget and the things that are happening. What I would say to you on this, the council has gone through its budget cycle, which provides updates on the financial position and brought forward savings options. We have a clearer picture of the financial challenges we face through this as well. This is global issues, and we, like all other authorities, cannot shy away from the tough decisions we need to make, which is why it is important they are done in a sensible and strategic way to avoid unnecessary impact to our community. What I would also say, given the financial pictures have changed for all local authorities across the year, and an autumn budget would not necessarily have been able to foresee and address some of the current changes. And as you know, you sit on the working group, Councillor Fluker, which Council put you on at my recommendation, and you're also Strategy and Resources. We are all working together on that cross-party working group to look at the future going forward. You're as well as I am of what has been said in those meetings. And what I would say is the council is using its reserves, which is built up for situations such as we have, because I think that's what you're referring to, the cost of living crisis and our reserves being utilised. With taxpayers' money, I appreciate, to maintain service levels at a time of great need for our residents and businesses to assist with their prosperity and sustainability. This is a challenging time, Mr. Fluker, Councillor Fluker, beg your pardon. This is a challenging time for everyone, and we will do all we can to support them, Councillor Fluker, and I really do believe that this is what this council will do. Officers and members are working together to look at financial plans moving forward into 2023-24 as part of the regular process. And Council on the 15th of December will be receiving financial options with recommendations from Strategy and Resources Committee. What I would also like to say is, at the recent Treasury Management Training session, it was said, reserves are there for when times get difficult and crisis. The 151 officer has explained recently at the Finance Working Group that the budget gap, due to a number of economic factors, has grown. And the budget survey, though, which we've had from our residents, is indicating to this authority where the priorities should be, and one of which is the cost of living and support for our residents. You are right, Councillor Fluker, regarding the impact of various things on the budget, or I'm going to tell you now, that's COVID, and of course the cost of living crisis. And I think it's very important we bear that in mind. But I would also like to highlight that the LGA is also lobbying government very intensively and has written directly on behalf of all member authorities to the Chancellor as well, highlighting the financial situation of local government, and that if severe cutbacks were made, including for the most vulnerable in our society, this would not only do damage to our communities, but massively undermine government ambitions about economic growth and help residents through this cost of living crisis. Government is being urged to urgently provide financial sustainability and certainty for councils so they can keep communities running and deliver for residents. Essex leaders and chief executives have also had discussions because Essex authorities are all in the same position. So I'm highlighting what's going on. And as I said back in my leader's statement in June, I referred to the issues that were coming up for this council. Not of my doing, I would say, Councillor Fluker. This is about what's happening in England, what's happening in Essex, what's happening across the globe. As the government has said, in fact the Prime Minister has, Mr Rishi Sunak, the Right Honourable MP. The Essex authorities are all in the same boat regarding finances, and as I said in my leader's speech back in June, that municipal year, what we hope to achieve for the remainder of it, I referred the continuing opportunities with other local authorities to arrive where services could perhaps be shared to assist. I did bring that forward within that document, and I didn't highlight that. But we must continue to prioritise our resources, work in partnership where possible, and invest our time and effort in areas that fulfil core services. We also need to help support our residents and communities to improve quality of life. And I know that's a long explanation, but
can I move on?
Right,
Very
okay.
quickly, Councillor Stamp.
Thank you, Chairman. I feel a bit mean now, Leader, what I'm going to say and ask, because, but I am going to ask it. I did ask you quite some time ago if you would consider all chairmen and vice chairmen of all the committees actually having a meeting so we could actually look at taking the council forward. I think on the basis of what Councillor Fluke has just actually said, I think it'd be a very good idea. I know that you had some reservations about actually taking that the step further, but I think it's actually very important now. The second thing I'm going to say in defence of you, Leader, regarding what Councillor Fluker has said, it just shows exactly that transformation hasn't fulfilled and delivered the savings that it was supposed to deliver. And I don't think anybody can just blame you sitting in that seat about the economic downturn and what every council at all levels are going to experience at the moment. Not to negate what Councillor Fluker said, he's got every right to say it, but I don't think it's fair just to target you, Leader. Thank you.
Thank you. Leader, do you wish to answer the first bit about a meeting of all chairmen?
Yes, we did have a conversation, and actually I think I actually said to Councillor Stamp at that time, yes, I had thought about it, and I must admit, being with every other opportunity, well, not opportunity, everything else going on, I suppose that slipped my mind. But yes, and in fact, you should have had an invite to something recently, a meeting, I do hope. We spoke about it. I think you said you questioned whether policy planning was running because the late right. I think that might tell you or inform you where I'm meeting perhaps some of that first part of your question.
Thank you. I'm sorry, I'm now going to close the meeting, Councillor Fluke. I will adjourn the meeting then, so after the next meeting we can come back to the third question and the rest of the agenda. Meeting is now adjourned.